Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
The fourth dimension will collapse upon itself, you stupid bitch.
Shut up, I'm a man and I know what's good for me.
Bountiful penis. Amen.
Boy, my ass is sore.
You can get pink eye from farting in a pillow?
Yeah, but you gotta be bare-assed.
I'm gonna invent a toothbrush for your butthole.
It does the trick.
Paddington Bear.
He's a homewrecker?
Yeah, he wrecks homes.
You are a murderer of love.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. With me today are Emily.
Hi, everyone.
And our friend Dylan. Welcome back, Dylan.
Hello, this is the sound of my voice.
The sounds of voices you will not hear today will be Matt, because he has been working really hard, and Wesley, who still needs a little more time to recover before he feels comfortable recording with us again. But hopefully that will happen really soon, because we do miss him. And he's been slowly progressing towards being a healthy, normal living person again. So hopefully that process is going well for him and that we will have him back soon.
He texted me back last night. I was
Did
so
he?
excited. Yeah.
Yeah, he texted me too.
Haha, he loves me more.
He texts on days where he's feeling really good, which is always encouraging. Well, one of the reasons we wanted to have Dylan back for this episode is that as we move into the new year, we are planning on doing something a little different, where we're going to be tackling 1 year of movies every year. And we're going to have myself and Emily as regular hosts on every episode. And then as our third host, we're going to have a rotating cast. And one of those cast members is going to be Dylan. So Dylan will be on every third episode with us.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, so really excited for that. Excited to jump into a different year of movies, because I'm a little sick of 2007, even after this long break. Am I alone in that, Emily?
I've been sick of 2007 since the beginning, man. And we're saving some of the best movies, quote unquote, for the end. So
We're starting back up with a good movie, in my opinion.
Yes.
Darjeeling Limited, directed by Wes Anderson. And that's what we'll be talking about today. So before we jump into that, what is in everybody's glass this morning?
dude, it's 10 a.m. and I really struggled this week of teaching. I was doing pretty well, but I am definitely going with tea this morning. So I'm a little low energy from teaching, but I'm high energy for this movie in my brain. Ooh, I don't know what that means.
Dylan, how about you?
Well, I've got, since my daughter today has her first swimming lesson, I really don't want to potentially drink and drive. So I'm just having some LaCroix, limoncello flavored LaCroix. It's tasty. Tastes like a creamy lemonade.
Oh, nice. I went the same route as Emily did, and I went with a little Earl Grey tea, but I wanted to also, drink a little bit this morning. So I threw some bourbon in there.
Okay.
Nice.
You fancy bitch.
It said Earl Grey and bourbon is supposed to go together well. I don't really like bourbon much, and I don't really like tea, so
this is great for you, isn't
this
it?
is the perfect drink for me on a Saturday morning.
Doesn't a negative plus a negative equal a positive?
No.
Well, yes, it does, Emily.
A negative plus a negative
Oh,
equals a
no.
positive?
You said plus?
He
Yeah,
said
said
plus.
I mean, that's my fault for thinking Dylan would speak correctly.
That was so mean, Ben.
So this is our first time back doing a quote unquote normal episode in about 2 months. What have you all been watching recently?
Well, I decided to go back to watching Futurama while I do work for school on the couch at night. So that's just been playing in the background. But I did see a newish movie that I'm very excited about. I watched Nobody, and holy shit, that was a fun movie. I was not expecting a lot from it, except that our friend Brandon was like, I really want to see it. Looks really good. I had no idea what it was. I had no expectations whatsoever, but it is a fucking tight action thriller with a lot of comedic elements. And it's it's like an hour and a half. So it's just so tight, and the fight scenes are incredible. And I just had the best time with it.
Isn't that the one with Bob Odenkirk?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So like I said, new-ish. It's not that new.
Given the current, again, with everything with COVID and whatnot, anything that was released in the last 3 to 4 months, I'd still say is new.
Oh, this came out last year, I think.
Did it?
2020?
I can't remember. Since I haven't worked at movie theaters in so long and have not seen a movie in a theater in such a long time, that stuff just blows right past me now. It's kind of stinks because I used to always know when everything was coming out. I always knew and had it planned out. My summer, I was like, all right, we get this one in June, July, August.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great. Now, I don't even know what's coming out anymore.
Well, I mean, being stuck inside of our houses, not able to go to the theaters has probably not helped that either.
Very true.
Dylan, what have you been watching recently?
I've been watching a lot of just, again, with watching the two kids, watching a lot of just TV shows, rewatched Parks and Rec again, The Office again, going through some of the new Star Trek Discovery.
Oh my God, it's so good.
It is really, really good. It's so good. And Picard was really good too. I watched Picard. I thought that was pretty solid, but nothing too horribly exciting. When I work, I'm usually listening in on podcasts or movies. So nothing too much.
Yeah, I've been doing rewatches too as I've been working. So I got through 30 Rock and I got through The League. But this week I was able to watch with my daughter Jungle Cruise with The Rock and Emily Blunt. And it was not good. And the opposite of Nobody, it was way too long.
Really? How long?
It was only 2 hours and 10 minutes, but it felt like a freaking eternity. It tried so hard to be Pirates of the Caribbean, and it just wasn't. Now, and I love The Rock. I love the Jungle Cruise at Disney World, that ride. I love the dad jokes aspect of the guy guiding you or girl.
Was that even in the movie?
It was. So The Rock was full of dad jokes, which is probably the only reason I liked his character. Because almost everything out of his mouth in the first half hour was just a dad joke.
Got it.
So I liked that aspect of it, but the adventure just didn't hook me. You could tell it was just a CGI fest and I couldn't get behind it.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorite dad jokes?
I can't remember. There were so many flying at me that none of them stuck.
Well, when that eventually hits just Disney Plus, I'll maybe have to check that out. I don't know.
Yeah, it should be soon, I think. I think Jungle Cruise and Shang-Chi are hitting the same day as part of a Disney
that's
Plus
the one
celebration.
that I'm planning on seeing.
Yeah, I did hear the news that I think it was Marvel it was Disney did say that after Shang-Chi did so well, they're stopping their program that they were running where you could watch it, pay the $30 to watch it on Disney Plus. After Shang-Chi did 60 or 70 million its opening weekend, they basically decreed, nope, we're not doing that $30 Disney Plus deal anymore. If you want to go see new Disney movies or Marvel movies, go to a movie theater.
Well, that's probably for the best because they were digging themselves a hole with actors in regards to doing that type of stuff.
Yeah, I also saw that they are going through every person's contract again after this whole Scarlett Johansson debacle with her movie. Yeah, they're renegotiating or refiguring all contracts. So good for her for putting that forward and getting that out there. Good for her. She's helping everybody. Yeah,
hopefully the union that's about to strike doesn't end up doing that, or every TV show and movie production is going to shut down. It's the skill trade union that's threatening to shut down. Hopefully that doesn't happen, or there's no new content that's going to be made.
What's the skill? I've never heard of that union.
It's the behind the scenes people, the ones that the gaffers.
Oh, okay. Your best boys, your gaffers,
the whole tech side of movie productions, not the people in front of the camera, but behind. They're threatening to go on strike because they get treated very, very poorly. 20-hour days and no lunch break and just terrible conditions. So hopefully they get what they want.
Yeah.
Well, another movie that we've watched recently is Darjeeling Limited, starring Owen Wilson, Adrian Brody, and Jason Schwartzman. And as I said, directed by Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Says the train's lost.
How can a train be lost? It's on rails.
Apparently we took a wrong turn at some point last night. That's crazy.
How far off course are we?
Nobody knows. We haven't located us yet.
What'd you just say?
What?
What you just said. Say it again.
We haven't located us yet.
Ah! Is that symbolic?
For our synopsis today, I'm going to read straight from the back of the DVD cover. 3 estranged American brothers reunite for a meticulously planned, soul-searching train voyage across India 1 year after the death of their father. Armed with 11 suitcases, a laminated itinerary, a can of pepper spray, a supply of over-the-counter painkillers, and a host of family conflicts ready to erupt, Francis, played by Owen Wilson, Peter, played by Adrian Brody, and Jack, played by Jason Schwartzman, eventually find themselves stranded alone in the middle of the desert, at which point an unexpected new chapter of their journey begins.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, you reacted to a part of that. It's almost a little too accurate.
Yeah. I reacted to the over-the-counter drugs part because I was like, wait, I thought they were like totally doing opium and such.
Well, no, that was kind of the joke of the movie, was that if they were in America or anywhere else, all of those drugs would basically be illegal.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
But in India, it's just a treasure trove. You can buy whatever you want. You don't need a prescription. Just, pick up whatever.
Got it.
The one that throws me off is the inclusion of a can of pepper spray. Like, I understand that there's a scene with a pepper spray, but it's not like that was a major component of the movie.
It wasn't, but it did have my favorite line of the movie. I love you too, but I'm going to mace you in the face.
Yeah, that was a good one.
This was the first time I had ever actually watched this movie.
Oh my gosh, me too.
And I got to say, I'm one of those people, this sounds so dumb, but I'm one of those people where I watch Wes Anderson trailers and I just kind of go, this is why some people hate Hollywood, because these movies look so pretentious and so artsy fartsy and whatnot. And I kind of have that same kind of view in my brain. But then I watch the movie and I go, man, this movie is amazing. This movie is so, so good. Everybody should see this movie. Everybody should see this. But just the trailers and I love Wes Anderson's style. I really do. But it just kind of has that look to it of bourgeois that I think turns some people off.
Well, what you have to be able to say about Wes Anderson movies is that he's making art. Like, his movies are so meticulous, and he's got such a great eye for framing. Like, you stop the movie at points, and it could be a photograph. Like, It's so beautiful, and everything is in its exact place where it's supposed to be. And the production design of his movies, the amount of work that goes into crafting the look that he has for these movies. I think of like bigger production design set pieces and things like Life Aquatic, or the setups that he has in Grand Budapest with the model of the hotel. He's so detail focused in the way he makes films. And I can see why that might come off as pretentious to others. And I don't think the way that they make trailers helps that case, because they really lean hard into that Wes Anderson-y feel and quirkiness.
Just look at the SNL fake trailer they made for the Wes Anderson horror film, the Coterie of Killers or something like that. It was the most pretentious looking trailer, but honestly, I probably would love a Wes Anderson horror film.
Mm-hmm. This was my first time watching too, as I said. And I think I was just too sleepy to really value it the first time I watched it. And so as I kind of went back this morning and looked at some of the clips and I did some reading of it, just finding out some of the production background, like the fact that the train was actually moving the whole time, and every piece that they created on the train is something that they meticulously put and they made. And I'm just sitting there as someone who has done a lot of tech and set design. I was just blown away by how amazing it is. And I shouldn't have been surprised, even though I know I kind of was in the moment when I first watched it. But I know how much they've put into work with my two favorite movies of Wes Anderson, with Isle of Dogs and Fantastic Mr. Fox. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have been surprised that everything that they created was for this movie. And that just impresses me even more of how everything was on purpose. And yes, it may have a bougie feel to it, but it's on purpose to really play up the characters and play up this Wes Anderson world, honestly.
I do think he's a brilliant director. He's very smart. But I just kind of think that some of the look of the production design does look a little off-putting to, and the previews do usually look a little off-putting to, you know, the regular Joe type guy who just is like, I just want to see Thanos. But that might not be a movie made for, these movies aren't necessarily made for him, but he might like it. I loved Grand Budapest. That's what probably my favorite Wes Anderson movie is. Ben and I saw that at the theater, and I walked out going, that was probably his best. I said it. That was probably his best movie he's ever made. Because it was so fun and enjoyable. But yet, if you watch the trailers, you might be like, I don't want to go see that. That doesn't look good. But then you go see it and you're like, it's amazing.
Well, I think you're right when it comes to like an average person that doesn't have any sense of appreciation of art. But I also think that in this day and age, we have people that are like that, but aren't even going to watch a trailer. You know, they're not going to seek out anything beyond their comfort. And that's perfectly fine, because there are plenty of people in the world that admire this art style and find it to be interesting and the storytelling to be interesting. And so I honestly don't think it matters anymore. Wes Anderson has found his groove, and he's just like, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to have people that love it.
And the people that love it are white people. So I remember there was a book that was called Things White People Like. And one of the first entries in it was Wes Anderson movies.
Yes.
And ever since then, that's always been on the forefront of my mind when I watch his movies or his trailers, is I look at like, okay, why do white people love his movies? And I know why Wes loves his movies. It's because Wes has a photographer's eye. He likes that sort of framing idea. And the director's name is also Wes. And there's nothing Wesley loves more than people with the same name as him. But that doesn't apply to all white people. So why do you guys think white people latch on to Wes Anderson movies?
Well, there are a lot of white people in Wes Anderson movies, and they are usually people that are like semi-beloved. You know, you've got your Bill Murray, and you've got, what the hell, George, what's his face?
Clooney?
Yeah, his voice is in multiple movies. You've got, I don't know if Jason Schwartzman is all that great, but he has like a non-threatening vibe to him.
He's not that great in this movie. Let's get that out of the way.
Right. But like generally there are very non-threatening white people in these movies that you recognize, or that their voices are familiar. And I think it's less about who's in it, but more that it's a white person, upper middle class story. And so it kind of has this liberal vibe to it.
I don't think there's anything middle class about this. These are upper class people.
I just said upper middle class.
I'm saying I don't even think middle class, like that addendum applies to his characters.
Well,
like
I'm applying to all of his movies. Fantastic Mr.
I would say
Fox.
that about
Mr.
all of his
Fox
movies.
Is not wealthy.
Mr. Fox is not white. So if we're going to do that and play
George
that
Clooney.
game,
I would agree with partially with what Emily is saying, that I think it is. Yeah, all of these characters, they all have internal issues. I would say that about most Wes Anderson movies is everybody's conflict is not external. They're mostly all internal psychological issues that they have to
white
work
people
out.
Problems.
Exactly. A lot of it's white people problems. And also I would say the idea of independent wealth. That all of these people, you know, Owen Wilson's character, all these guys, how are they able to live in, you know, foreign countries and everything for as long as they do? And you don't really hear what jobs they do or anything like that. You know, Jason Schwartzman goes, yeah, I wrote a short story while I was living in France.
it's all family money in almost all of these Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah, odds are that's probably what it is. Yes. But I would say that that's kind of the problem with it is these movies don't usually have a whole lot of external conflict. They're all internal conflict. And I would say a lot of, again, white people problems. These are white people with white people issues. And how does that, me as, or someone as a person of color, really going to relate to that?
I agree that a lot of the problems in Wes Anderson movies are internal, but I also don't have a lot to go off of because even though I follow accidental Wes Anderson on Reddit and I know a lot of the Wes Anderson tropes, I have only seen this movie, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Isle of Dogs, and the children one, the Moon Children one.
Moonrise Kingdom.
I don't remember what it's called. Moonrise Kingdom. And so, yes, I agree that like Moonrise Kingdom has characters that have internal struggle, but also like the children, it's a different kind of external struggle as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a little bit more nuanced. And then the people around them, though, have that sort of similar feel. And then also Fantastic Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox 100% is like all about him. Like it's all about I need to be better and I need to find something that's my passion and I don't like being a poor fox. But Isle of Dogs is a little bit different. It's about this little boy who goes to find his dog. And that is a very external sort of thing. And it's all about like, it's just very different. It has still a similar style, but it's just very different. And I know that a lot of people didn't like it, but I loved it. So I don't know.
Well, I'm just going to bring it back to Darjeeling Limited because I think there's enough external conflict within this movie to propel it forward. There's the brothers' interactions with each other. It's their relationships with their father, with their relationships with their mother. And I also don't think that those themes of grief and abandonment are solely things that white people go through. So the problems within this movie are not white people problems. They are white people with problems. And maybe they're like going at these problems from a white perspective or lens. But these are themes that everyone should be able to latch onto.
True.
I totally understand that. I do. And maybe it's just kind of I don't know why certain groups don't like or don't see Wes Anderson movies. Maybe it is the idea that it doesn't have enough minority cast members.
Or when they do have minority cast members, are those minority cast members like pigeonholed? Is that the right word? I don't know how to describe it, but they're like very assuming a certain kind of role where it's not like a main character.
Or it just kind of feels like when they're casting, they're like, oh, we got all these parts filled. And it's like, well, we got this one last part here. Who should we get? It's like, Danny Glover or some minority actor. And it's just like, they're only in it for like 3 or 4 scenes, but should we get this person? Yeah, let's do it.
I do think that this movie is probably his least white movie, just by nature of the setting in India.
Wait a second. If you're saying Mr. Fox isn't a white person, then...
Oh my God, we're not talking about Mr. Fox. Because then his least white movie is probably Isle of Dogs.
Right.
But the India setting of this movie, it's very interesting how Wes Anderson chooses to use it because he kind of portrays India through the character arcs of our 3 main characters. Like in the beginning of the movie, India is more just a backdrop of these 3 brothers' issues. And they spend all of this time on the train. And even though India is zooming by in the background, you don't ever get a sense of India. And it's not until they're kicked off the train and they start growing as people that you then start to see India in all of its beauty. When I'm thinking of the scene specifically in the village with the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say the very opening of the movie when Adrian, I think it does depict kind of what India is and maybe the idea of rich people privilege. I'll say this because Adrian Brody, he's running, he gets on the train, and what does he do? He walks from the very back of the train, which is typically the cheap seats, let's call it that, and he's walking through and it's just these bunk beds and he has to go under another like beam of like a bed or something. And then he gets to the next car. Next car is a little bit better and it keeps progressing until he's at where he and his brothers are staying, where oddly enough, I didn't see many other people passing by them in that particular car on the train other than the conductor who kicked him off. And I'm just going to call her Lime Tea or Sweet Lime. Those are like really the only 2 kind of people that
Rita?
they encounter.
Rita, the female.
Rita,
the female character.
I was like, who are you talking about?
Yeah, Sweet Lime. They called her Sweet Lime through almost the whole movie. Except,
see, I really was asleep during this movie or something. I Sorry.
But it kind of did show that it's just those 3 white guys and 2 Indian people.
Well, yeah, but it reminds me a lot of this whole white people go on spiritual journeys or white people are able to go travel.
And that's what I mean by kind of like that white, rich privilege. Because after I was done watching this movie, I was like, let's go to India. I'm ready. Let's go to India. It's going to be so beautiful. And then I have to remember, oh yeah, it's India, where they have like poisonous snakes, tigers, a disease. It's just, it's not the healthiest country in the world. They make it look gorgeous and beautiful and spiritually mysterious, but then when you come down to it, it's probably not.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree with that statement. I just think that, yes, they highlight, but that's like every movie. Every movie highlights a place, a setting of some sort. And so I think it's more of just highlighting the fact that these white men that are very wealthy can go and do this thing, and gives you that idea of they're going on this spiritual journey, but they don't realize that even though they're able to do this, they don't realize that they're actually going to grow from it.
I think this movie has something very interesting to say about white people on spiritual journeys, because I feel that it's very anti. It really portrays them as idiots throughout the movie.
Yes.
Particularly the scene where they've got the peacock feather, and they all 3 do something different with it as part of the ritual, and then they just look so stupid because none of them could get it right.
And that's kind of what I meant by they don't realize that they're actually going to grow on the journey. They just like go because they can.
Well, I think they set out with an intent to grow. Like, I think that's why they went.
I think Francis is the one that's like, I want our brothers to be together. And actually, I didn't realize that. I completely missed the whole thing about Francis's accident was actually more like he wanted to kill himself. I completely missed that until I started reading the Wikipedia site. I was like, oh, okay, this has a little bit more meaning for me now.
Yeah.
Of why he wanted the brothers to come back together.
That's kind of something in Wes Anderson movies too, that they'll do some of those kind of like little side stories where somebody's hurt or something happened to a person, and then they're totally lying about what happened and how it happened. And then by the end of it, you kind of go, oh, it was really that. So I always kind of had that idea that with Owen Wilson, that I was like, no, this was a suicide attempt. He attempted suicide and failed and had an epiphany or some kind of a come to God moment where he was just like, I got to get my family back together and we got to fix each other. And he kind of was that because he was the oldest of the 3, I'm assuming, in the movie. That I found very interesting. The scenes where he's constantly, bossing everybody around and making everybody's decisions and this and that. And then we get to the very tail end of the movie and they find their mother, Angelica Houston, and she is acting exactly like Owen Wilson has acted throughout the entire movie. Going, okay, Francis, you're going to have this, you're going to have this, you're going to have this. Raise your hand if you want this.
Raise your hand if you want scrambled eggs.
And it just kind of showed that Owen Wilson had to take over. This maybe wasn't necessarily his own quirk, but he developed it over time because I think it came out to be both his mother and father were never really there for those 3. And Owen Wilson had to raise 3 kids.
It seems like the way that he expresses his love for his brothers is in that way because that's what he learned from his mother. So I think it really clarifies the dynamic of the brothers early on in this movie by having him take that role and seeing the way that they react to him. Like the brothers at the beginning clearly resent him acting this way, and all of the brothers have these flaws in them that kind of grate on each other. And then throughout the movie, they end up embracing these quirks that each other has as they start to like fix the bonds between them.
When Francis even mentions like, I raised you guys, right? There's a conversation right in the beginning. Like he's like, yeah, I raised you guys. And they're all not vibing with each other. They're all kind of having 3 separate conversations with themselves and not even like communicating with each other. He thinks that he raised his 2 brothers. And I never got the impression that Francis had any reason to raise the family. I mean, it was a year ago that their dad died.
Right.
And so they're all grown ass adults And I never got the impression that they had a tough time growing up. And for some reason, I don't remember why. I think maybe Ben had mentioned, oh yeah, they have daddy issues or something, or they have family issues. And so like I had that bias throughout and I was waiting for it to see it and it never happened. To me, it was more these three brothers were really entitled and had everything they could have ever wanted, but they didn't know how to communicate or be brothers. They didn't know how to love one another in a way that the others understood.
In the very, very opening, when we see surprise spoilers, Bill Murray, and he's on the taxi, he's running to this, he's running to that, and then Adrian Brody passes him, gets on the train, and then he kind of is like, what? And then he turns around and he sees him again. Was that supposed to be their father?
No.
Like, was he having a vision of his dad? I know they listed him in the credits as businessman. That made me think that, oh, he thinks he's seeing his dad, or this is how his dad was.
Remember that his dad's glasses were prescription sunglasses. And so he was wearing these prescription sunglasses, and it gave, what was the actor's name? Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody gave him an almost confused look throughout the whole movie because he's wearing glasses that don't work for him. So for me, seeing Bill Murray, that beginning, it was just such a fun moment of like this taxi cab zooming through, and it built this excitement. And then it was this sudden switch of this entitled asshole guy immediately gives me a little bit of his character.
Yeah, I think the Bill Murray part was mostly used to establish setting, like to really show you where you are in India, or not necessarily where, but that you're in India. And then also, I think it's expected that Bill Murray is just in a Wes Anderson movie, and I think this was his way of utilizing that expectation to introduce a character, and I thought it was really effective.
Now, back to my idea of like the idea of abandonment that, Owen Wilson did feel the need to raise his brothers and stuff like. Because didn't they mention a few times with their mother that she kind of was one of those kind of a cause head where she was always floating to like different things. Like, oh, there's poor people in India. Oh, now there's poor people in Tibet. And now there's poor people here. And I got to help all these people. And, like how she said, oh yeah, she became a nun. And both of the other brothers are like, what? They were like surprised that she became a nun. And that also kind of what led me to believe this whole idea of Owen, that their mother and father were never really there for their kids, that they were always looking at other problems that other people were having that they had to fix, and not seeing the problems that by not being with their kids is causing.
I can see that.
And that's why I kind of thought the idea that Adrian Brody, that the Bill Murray character was like his father, because I kind of had that weird thought, because his father had all this luggage that, oh, his father was like a traveling salesman or something like that he was constantly traveling, and mom was constantly doing something. And so these three boys are basically like, well, where's mom and dad? Oh, dad's in India and mom is doing this.
Well, what does this movie have to say about grief and abandonment? Because I think it does something really interesting where once they get thrown out of the train and they attempt to save that little boy in the river, and Adrian Brody comes out and the boy's dead and they take him back, that kind of stirs up the emotions that they were feeling of their father's funeral, because then we get the flashback after that to the father's funeral. And I found it very interesting that the grief portion of it, the grieving for your father, as soon as they experience this other culture's way of grieving things, that all of a sudden the father isn't really an issue anymore in their lives. Like, they're able to move on from the grief. And it's only then do they really realize the abandonment that they're feeling from their mother. And that's why they then decide, okay, I'm going to go to the top of this mountain and confront our mom.
Right. Prior to them getting off the train or getting kicked off the train, the tension that builds with the brothers, where they're snipping at each other because Dad had said I was the favorite. And wait, is that Dad's or someone's off doing their own thing? And they all have kind of their own side adventures. And they're constantly like partnering up and saying, no, we're not going to keep things from each other. Well, he said this, keep me out of this. You know, that kind of shit continues on. But once they get off the train, it doesn't matter as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's still tension between them, but those little pieces don't matter as much, especially when the boy dies. And that's actually probably one of my favorite scenes because I think they are arguing about something. And then suddenly, and this is why I was like half asleep on the couch, and suddenly action's happening. And it's very not Wes Anderson style. It just kind of flipped. And I liked how my expectation was that, oh, the three brothers are going to save the three brothers. They're going to bond over that. But the grief of losing a kid and seeing Adrian Brody's just like completely petrified in that moment was so hard to watch for me. And like I felt so much emotion in that scene.
Adrian Brody acts the shit out of this movie. He is so good in this movie. The crying that he does when he's reading the short story about his father's funeral, like that scene, that shot stuck with me. He had this like disassociated look when he comes out of the water with the kid, where it's like it's almost like he's out of his own body, just going through motions. And then the manic energy that he has in that scene where they're at the auto mechanic, like everything Adrian Brody did in this movie was phenomenal. And I'm not a big Adrian Brody fan, and he blew me away in this one.
Really?
Yeah, I thought he was really good in this. But to go with what you were saying, Emily, about with the idea of grief and everything, is that if we kind of think, I want to go back to kind of like the beginning when, again, Adrian Brody's getting on the train. He is pretty much oblivious to everything around him through most of the movie. And I would say that for for all three of them, that they're on this train, they're in first class, they're getting off, and then they're just like, oh, look at this beautiful market, and look at this, and oh, this is so beautiful and so great. That it wasn't until they got kicked off the train and actually had to do something for themselves that they finally, I think, realized that everything they're arguing about is petty, stupid bullshit. And then when the kids fall off and the kid dies, that brings, I think, Adrian Brody and the three of them, especially Adrian Brody, back to that idea of like, all of this petty stuff doesn't matter. We have each other, and that's the most important thing. And so we need to come together. And I think that's why they also came to the conclusion of, we need to confront our mother for not being there for us. And then came the big ending, which was kind of the mom kind of going, yeah, I may not have been there, but let go. You can't keep blaming me for all of your problems and every little issue that happened in your life now.
The self-involvement piece is so evident in their characters in the beginning, and it's that scene where they're eating in the dining car, and there's an Indian guy sitting next to them at their table, and he not once is acknowledged in being in that scene because they're so into their own shit. But that scene also does a really great job of laying out all of the shit that they're going through in a way that didn't feel like an exposition dump. Like it felt very just like familial, like they were just talking to each other. And it didn't feel like sometimes how these movies do, where it feels like, oh, you're just laying out all of the problems on the table so that we can get the movie going. And it didn't feel like that. It felt much more relatable.
Right. And it also like introduced how the characters interact with each other. And like there was a deeper meaning behind how they interacted and how they spoke to each other. You got the immediate feel that they were a family and the family that didn't get along.
Mm-hmm.
Or that this is a broken family.
If you had to pick, is this movie a comedy or a drama?
It's absolutely a drama.
Drama.
Okay.
More drama than, there are some parts that I was like, oh yeah, that's funny. But, you know, kind of like I would say the Three Stooges-esque scene with the snake and the fight scene kind of felt like, you know, kind of like a Three Stooges type thing. You know, it's three brothers all fighting amongst each other, and it felt kind of madcappy, ha ha ha, you know, and that was kind of funny. But for the most part, the rest of it's pretty dramatic.
The way I felt when I was watching it, I had a feeling that the drama was the most important. Yes, you can have funny snips between your family members, but there's still that overarching hurt that you're feeling for the characters, or the characters themselves are feeling. And so you can see and understand that each character is struggling with something major.
Mm-hmm.
And the family itself, like you said, Dylan, they're broken. And that is the focus. Yes, there are comedic elements to it, but it's so focused on how these brothers are coming together and healing.
I agree. I just hate that term, the drama. It's a dramedy. Like I hate that word, because no, it might be a drama that has some funny parts in it, or it's a comedy with a little bit of drama, but it's one thing or the other. And let's stop just combining words to try to describe everything that happens.
I'm sorry. I can definitely picture that being like a new segment. I'm going to combine 2 words or multiple words to make this a genre film.
So one thing that Wes Anderson movies are also known for is having phenomenal scores and soundtracks.
Oh my gosh. Did you also read the same thing that I read about how he used music from other famous Indian movies?
Yeah, the ones that he was trying to emulate. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
It's dedicated to the director. I can't remember his name. It starts with an S.
It's like Sajit Ray.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
It's like they were paying homage rather than whitewashing everything, you know? Like, obviously there is some very blatant problems of some of the stereotypes in Wes Anderson movies, but that I think was more honoring rather than doing any sort of deliberate whitewashing, I guess. But then also, of course, it has the Wes Anderson typical 60s soundtrack, you know?
60s and 70s.
Sure.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I one of my notes that I wrote down was Scorsese, Tarantino, Anderson are, like, for me, the top 3 needle drop, wonderful at putting together a soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like when they're writing the script, you can just see, like, in the script, they're writing in the margins or in, like, parentheses, this song plays in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And actually I've heard that about Scorsese, that when he read Goodfellas, that one of the big scenes in that, when they're going through, like, unveiling a bunch of stuff, that he wrote in the margins, reading the script, going, guitar solo from Layla needs to be here. And it's just, I love that vision that they know what they want and they get it.
And it led to 2 of my favorite scenes in this movie. The tracking shot of them coming out of the house dressed in the Indian garb, going to the funeral with the song that's playing during that tracking shot. And then the tracking shot at the end of them running in slow motion trying to catch the train, where they're literally unloading their baggage, which, heavy-handed metaphor aside, I still like that scene. And the music adds to it.
I loved every part of how they incorporated the music. And even when Jack was playing and chose Claire de Lune, I thought there was going to be a little bit more significance with that song throughout the movie, but it felt very like it was like their lullaby or something. And so everything felt like it had some extra meaning and you could interpret it in any way you wanted to. And I love that about Wes Anderson. Like, you get the feeling, but your emotion can be a little bit different from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
When this movie was released in theaters, it was accompanied by a short film that played before it called Hotel Chevalier, which has Jason Schwartzman and explains why Natalie Portman shows up for 15 seconds in Darjeeling Limited. Did you guys watch that short film?
Yeah, you sent it to me because I was like, I don't know what this is. This is like, I don't understand what's happening. And so, yeah, I watched it and I actually really liked it. It had definitely a feeling of one of those random short stories that you read and you can interpret it in so many different ways. And I liked that. I liked that it was a little bit weird, but also you could bring that into another movie and just have it be a background to it.
I really liked the short as well. This sounds so stupid, but one thing I kind of particularly liked about it is if you look at when Natalie Portman and Jason Schwartzman, and she's like covered in bruises, and he just kind of goes, "You bruises," and she just kind of writes it off like, Yeah. Well, I love the fact that if you look at like IMDb, at the time they made that short was the time that they made V for Vendetta.
Well, that's why her hair's short.
Yeah, and that's why her hair's short. But I just thought that was a really smart way of like acknowledging but not acknowledging that she's covered in bruises from filming another movie. I just thought that was smart.
Do you wish that more movies would do companion pieces like this and play them before movies?
I think that would be so cool. I mean, I know Pixar does their own little shorts, but they're not really related whatsoever. But I think that would be really cool to add some more depth to a world and to give more life to certain characters that maybe are in the movie briefly, maybe not like 15 seconds, but I think that would just be such an interesting way to incorporate more to a story.
Mm-hmm. Give it more context.
Well, do you feel like this short film tied in well to the rest of the movie? Like, I didn't feel like it offered me much insight into anything that happened within Darjeeling Limited.
Well, that's because Jason Schwartzman's character was just...
That's true.
But I still liked it. I still thought it was interesting. I thought it was a good attempt. But they needed to do... And I know Jason Schwartzman helped with the script. I'm not sure like how much. They just say co-written by. But I feel like they could have done a little bit more with his character. I did really enjoy it. Like, my absolute favorite scene is when they're going through the train, in quotes, and they're panning along the train, but it's different compartments of their life. Yeah. And including Natalie Portman. And I think that was just one of my absolute favorite shots, is they just panned alongside the quote unquote train of their life. And so it just added a little bit more to what Jack's character was going through in a breakup, even though I didn't value Jack as a character because I thought Jason Schwartzman did a shitty job. But I mean, it wasn't terrible. He just did nothing for me. Mm-hmm. But it gave me a little bit more appreciation for his character.
Dylan, did you have a favorite scene?
I would say I thought the funeral scene was really beautiful. I thought that for as small a part as that guy had, the man who played their father.
Yeah, Irfan Khan.
Yes. Like you say about Adrian Brody, he did the same. He was only in it for 5-10 minutes?
Yep.
And he acted the shit out of it.
Oh my God, I think I missed this scene.
When he was sobbing and crying about his, I was like, oh my God, did they really kill his actual child here?
Right. Or when he's in the water, cleansing himself after the funeral, all the ash and smoke from the pyre is on him, and he's in the water, and then he just collapses.
Yes.
In agony,
I was like, which father are you talking about? Okay, I know what you're talking about now. I thought for sure you meant the boys, as in the white boy's father. And I was like, did I miss this?
No, I'm talking about the funeral for the little boy that died.
Yes, that guy was fucking incredible.
Yeah, he is an amazing Indian actor.
Yes. Just actor.
Oh, just an actor. Oh, no, I'm just giving the fact that he's Indian. So
primarily, he's primarily Indian.
I'm going to get you.
Something I like in Wes Anderson movies is he does these shots in front of mirrors. And my favorite my favorite shot of any Wes Anderson movie is Royal Tenenbaums, the one where Richie's going through his breakdown transformation. Emily still hasn't seen Royal Tenenbaums. We will fix that shortly. But the scene that the three brothers have in front of the mirror where he's removing the gauze, it reminded me a lot of that scene in Royal Tenenbaums, and it was just super effective. And I thought the makeup was really well done. Yes. And the reveal of just what had happened to his face. Just a very powerful scene.
Turns out Owen Wilson did his own makeup. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, wow.
Any favorite lines that we haven't talked about?
Here's your belt.
I love the belt stuff. When Adrian Brody whips back and throws that belt, his throw is so funny to me. How can a train be lost? It's on rails. I love that question.
What was it when they get confined to their room and Adrian Brody goes, what are you going to do with, can we get our snake back? After they try to go, we don't know how a snake got in here. And then can we get our snake back?
Do you think it's really dead? He is so concerned about it.
And then as someone with siblings, I thought the line, I wonder if the three of us would have been friends in real life, not as brothers, but as people. That that hit me really hard. Just as someone with siblings. Emily, did you experience the weight of that as well?
I did, although I felt that, fuck yeah, my sisters and I definitely are way better than these three brothers. And sure. I felt it, but at the same time, I was like, yes, my sisters and I would actually be friends if we were real people too.
That, that line, I had my mom watch this. After I watched it, I texted my mom and told her, you need to watch this. You should watch this. It's really good. And she watched it, and we were talking yesterday while I was at work. We always talk about like our family and whatnot. And she has one brother, and she kind of said that line hit her a little hard. And she always says that because she's kind of the city mouse and my uncle's kind of a country mouse, so to speak. So she kind of said that line was really kind of a powerful line for her too, because it was that kind of, if my brother was not related to me, would I even be friends with him? Probably. Yeah, no.
Okay. How about final thoughts on this movie as we wrap up Darjeeling Limited?
I want to watch it again when I'm not half asleep after a work day. I took some time this morning to look at some movie clips, and I found it to be a lot more interesting. And once I actually could see the different nuances in it, I really valued that this morning. I was like, oh, this movie actually is a lot better than I previously thought. And so I definitely want to give it another chance, probably sometime in the summer when I don't have to think about school. But yeah, no, I generally liked it. And I think that I probably should try watching the other Wes Anderson movies besides just rewatching Fantastic Mr. Fox over and over again.
Yes. Although it's a great one.
So good.
Like I said in the beginning, I'm one of those, I don't want to like Wes Anderson movies because of like the kind of the look and the feel of them when I see the trailers. But every time I watch one of his movies, I always come out going, what a fantastic movie. And I will say this with this movie is we have talked about now for over an hour, how everything within the movie and, what the themes and this and the context and everything. Let's not forget, this movie's only an hour and a half. And that's pretty amazing to pack that much interpretation and meaning into an hour and a half movie and into an hour and a half long script to fit that much conversation. And we could probably keep going about that movie. That is really fantastic. And that I think really shows how smart Wes Anderson is as a director and a writer, that he can take a relatively short movie and make you just really think about it and want to go back and watch it again and again and again.
This was not my first time seeing this movie. I saw this movie when it came out because I was a huge Royal Tenenbaums fan. So I went and saw every Wes Anderson movie that came out. I always thought of it as lesser Wes Anderson prior to this viewing. Maybe as I'm getting older and my relationships with my brothers and my family are changing, I develop more of an appreciation for kind of the journey that they're going through. And I also don't think I necessarily understood the weight of the grief and the abandonment themes when I first watched it, because I just didn't understand grief and abandonment at that time. Going back now, I can say that this is now one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. It's still not Royal Tenenbaums for me because I love that fucking movie so much. And it's not as funny as his other movies like Life Aquatic or Grand Budapest, but it's really solid. And I encourage anyone who hasn't seen it to go see this, because I think it was miscategorized when it first came out. And it deserves a revisit.
I agree.
So we're going to play a game today.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
And Dylan is going to play this game. So Dylan, this game is called Oh Wow.
Oh Wow.
As you probably know, if you've ever seen an Owen Wilson movie, his catchphrase is wow. So he has said wow in over 50% of the movies he's appeared in. So Dylan, I'm going to give you a movie, and you need to tell me if he says wow in it or not.
Can I say it like it? Can I go, oh wow?
Yeah, if he says wow in it, say oh wow. Okay. So I'm going to start with the obvious one first, because we just watched an Owen Wilson movie. and then we're going to go in alphabetical order. So there's no order to them. Don't read into anything. It's alphabetical.
Okay.
Minute on the clock, and away we go. The Darjeeling Limited.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Armageddon.
No, wow.
Correct. Behind Enemy Lines.
Oh, wow.
Incorrect. Cars.
Oh, wow.
Correct. The Haunting.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Life Aquatic.
Oh, wow.
Incorrect. Marley and Me.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Midnight in Paris.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, wow.
Incorrect. Wedding Crashers.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Wonder.
No, wow.
Correct. Zoolander 2.
Oh, wow.
Incorrect. How did he do?
Got 8.
8 out of 12, Dylan. Very good job. You got more than half right. Now the big question, though, is
wow.
Of those movies I just said, which one does he say wow in the most?
Oh, jeez. I'm going to probably go with Cars.
Can I go with Marley and Me?
Ooh, Cars had 6. Marley and Me had 6. But the most, with 7, is Midnight in Paris.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah.
Is it bad for me to go, oh, wow?
I assume it's because he's put in this fantastical world that he doesn't understand and he's just blown away by it.
Yeah.
I just assumed he was looking at the dog and being like, ugh, wow.
Or maybe it was, I was going to go, or maybe he was just saying, he was ad-libbing, oh, wow, for, oh, wow, I'm in a Woody Allen movie. Why?
So, Emily, we're not going to do Twits this week.
No, but I do have a mini Twits.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Ben knows this because I found this out when I was talking to him. I thought the movie was the Darjeeling Unlimited.
Mm.
And so I was like really confused when he said it was limited because I was like, well, why? That seems so stupid. Like unlimited tea. I don't know, whatever. So I have a couple questions about Darjeeling Unlimited. Here's my first question. If you had unlimited Bill Murrays, how would you out Wes Anderson this Wes Anderson movie? Like, I want unlimited quirkiness. So you have unlimited Bill Murrays. What are you doing with Bill Murrays?
I'd go full John Malkovich when John Malkovich went into his own brain and have Bill Murray's head have all of their bodies, but have it be Bill Murray's head and voice coming out of every single character.
Yeah, yes.
So it's Rita, but with Bill Murray's head.
I want a quirky version of the movie Next with Nicolas Cage, only it's Bill Murray's just doing not anything action, just like his typical Wes Anderson character things, where we just get multiple attempts at lines where he's talking to people. And then we can see all the different pathways that he might have gone on in his conversation.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, that's silly. I would just take my unlimited Bill Murrays and beat up the 3 brothers because at the end of the movie, because Adrian Brody beat him on the first part of the movie. Just find him on the next train, just beat them up and throw them off the train.
I see where you're coming. Yeah.
We need a training montage where Bill Murray is training to become faster than Adrian Brody so that they race later in the movie.
Exactly.
It's Bill Murray's clocking Bill Murray's and training him on mountains.
Yes.
Push it.
Yes. The Rocky 3 montage with Bill Murray.
I am the tiger, Bill. I am the tiger.
We need unlimited Bill Murrays for this.
Yes.
Give me all the Bill Murrays. Okay, you ready for the next question?
Mm-hmm.
So, if the name actually was Darjeeling Unlimited, what would this movie actually be about?
Well, I mean, obviously, it would be about the Indian Boston Tea Party.
What?
No, not many people know about this, but just like we warred with Britain and we kind of started it with the Boston Tea Party, the Indian people, with help of Gandhi, they also had their own little tea party called the Darjeeling Unlimited, where they threw all of the tea into the Bay of Bengal. So the little history lesson for everyone out there. That's what Darjeeling Unlimited would be about. It'd be a historical fiction movie.
I'm just going to give him that one. That's too good.
We're not playing for points. We're just going, man.
Anything better than that.
Okay, I got one. Okay, so you know how Darjeeling Limited is the name of the train?
Mm-hmm.
Darjeeling Unlimited is basically Snowpiercer train. It never ends. It just goes and goes and goes.
I really like that.
That's a favorite movie of mine. I really like Snowpiercer.
I do too.
Darjeeling Unlimited could also be an action movie where it's like a chaiwala, like in Slumdog Millionaire, who does like a John Wick type thing when someone, spills his tea.
Oh my God, yes. But all directed by Wes Anderson.
Oh, yes. This action movie is absolutely directed by Wes Anderson.
Quirky fight scenes galore.
So that was Darjeeling Unlimited. Thanks for playing a mini Twits with me.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you.
That was fun. That was good. Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to our podcast today. We do appreciate your continued support. We'll be back next week where we'll be watching Eastern Promises with our friend Brandon.
Ooh.
And please take the time to rate, subscribe, share us with a friend or two, and continue to follow us on social media on Twitter at IDYP_podcast. We're also on Instagram where it's also IDYP_podcast.
Yeah, I just haven't done shit with
since
it
we did that.
in so long.
But
so
we're coming back and we're doing stuff now. And Emily's going to get back on the Instagram train.
We're doing stuff.
Instagram Limited.
Unlimited train.
Can I just say one with Eastern Promises really quick? I love that. That's another one that I really love that movie, and it is so unrelenting.
Yeah,
I'm
excited to talk about that one. Brandon,
like a train?
Like a train that doesn't stop.
So Denzel and Chris Pine are trying to stop the train? Like Unstoppable, that horrible movie that they made?
Oh, shit. Cinephiles just did that one, I'm pretty sure, because I guessed Snowpiercer.
That's going to be a movie that we do in next year, because it's a 2010 one.
Ugh,
so we'll be watching that one. We're only watching good movies, Emily, so that should tell you that it's a good one.
It better be.
Well, Dylan, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait. Can't wait for more.
Yes. And we'll be back next week, so have a good rest of your week, people.
Yay!
Bye.
I don't know why I said that like that. Bye.